Now that we've covered customer relationship management, supply chain management, finance and cost management, as well as human capital management, then comes the enterprise asset preventive maintenance as well as facility management solution of FusionFOX. Now this is an all-in-one solution which provides your facility management. It also provides your equipment, your preventive maintenance management, your breakdown management, as well as your service management in one single solution. Getting into the crux of the solution, let's have a look at the asset information management application, which is one single application which allows you to determine all your assets, asset types, and all your information pertaining to that particular asset. As an example for the demo purposes, we've selected an asset called the High Performance Propulsion Engine Superior 1. Now you can define all your asset details. You can go onto any level. You can define a group, or you can go define a subgroup. You can get further into its spare parts, define an asset master, define the asset description also over here. You can define additional details. If it's a state, if the reading needs to be done on a regular basis, then you can define the current reading, an arrangement number, an equipment type, a vendor name, and a manufacturer. Because this is based on a service-oriented architecture, it can be connected as a web service to the particular item where readings can be grasped on a real-time basis or on a regular basis. This is all possible because this is developed on a web services data delivery based system. You can define which particular operating unit is utilizing it, its warranty type and its period, the parent asset, the maintenance type that it will follow, the AMC details, annual maintenance contract details for that particular item, and the opening balance for that particular item, taking into account its depreciation. You can define the components, the asset components for that particular asset that we've defined above, the maintenance history. If it has a maintenance history, all the records will be clearly visible over here. Running details, as I clearly mentioned above, if it's an asset that needs to be monitored after a particular period, it can be defined. The running details can be clearly defined over here. As an example, we've defined every 250 hours runtime mechanical main engines, this is the reading. Every 500 hours, this is the reading. So this is a very comprehensive way of looking at each particular asset as a definition, the grouping, as well as defining the maintenance operations for that particular asset. Now, when we are speaking about maintenance, your maintenance activities, this is your master for defining your maintenance activities. You can define all kinds of maintenance activities, whether it be a preventive maintenance activity, whether it be a breakdown activity, or whether it be a service activity. As we were looking earlier, we had a look at the service activity where every 500 hours, this was the one we were looking at earlier. You can define all the steps that needs to be followed when this service takes place. For an activity-based materials requirement, for this activity you can define the particular materials that would be needed. You can define the requirements and what approvals would you need in order to perform that service activity. So unless or until these a clearance document by the on-site, or a work permit, or a checklist. This is a flag, this is a text which needs to happen prior to start, as well as a clearance document is provided. You cannot perform this particular activity. The system will not issue a job order unless or until these three documents are received. The enterprise asset management comes inbuilt with a document management solution to cater to its specific needs. Now, on what particular assets is it applied on can be defined over here. Once you define that asset master, then you don't need to define it every time for each particular asset. And escalation details can be defined over here from who it needs to escalate if that particular service operation is not being taken place. Now here, as we saw, you can define your particular maintenance activity. This is your activity classification. It needs to take place every 4 and the time required for this particular activity is 4.5 hours, criticality level, and it needs to be closed by only the approval. Now, as we had a look at the asset information management, also at the maintenance activities, now let's look at how the asset tracking is done. We have an asset request tool as well as the processing for that request raise, then allocating that particular asset based on the approval or disapproval of that particular request, asset allotment and issue, and returning that particular asset. So these 4 applications take care of your asset tracking as well as catering to each particular project's needs. The depreciation tool is inbuilt. You have an asset portfolio setup. The preventive maintenance and planning tool is inbuilt, where you can create preventive maintenance plans. You can build activity-based task lists and allocations also. Let's have a look at this preventive maintenance tools. For demo purposes, we've defined one particular preventive maintenance activity. For this particular period, it's a plan for an operating unit. Now this operating unit, for which portfolio and which asset group. The activities, the asset overview that will be taken care of, as well as the executions. Now as we had a look at the preventive maintenance planning, we also have the asset running information, where on a regular basis you can capture the metering details, the information of that asset can be captured on the given frequency that's determined in this tool. Work orders are issued on the basis of service request. If it's a PMS activity, automatic work orders are issued and they're assigned to service engineers. Getting into the service engineers, we have an application for the service engineer workbench, which is one single interface from where the service engineer can view all the jobs that are allocated to him or her and what are the spare parts or the materials requested for that particular task. As an example, the XXX well servicing pumps. This is the asset name which needs service. Now the service engineer has requested these particular assets, and the reason for failure of these particular assets also means defined. You can provide a justification why these particular items failed, as well as images or documents can be uploaded which can be proof or justification for these particular services to have taken place or for these particular spare parts to have been requested. Once these items are released to the particular service engineer, he can define the actions that he took in order to close this particular task. Now, as we had a look at the entire enterprise asset management application, where we had a look at the asset information management, the depreciation, the preventive maintenance planning, work orders, as well as the service engineer workbench, we can also define checklist for these service engineers over here. Now, this is again a management tool or a project manager tool where he can determine checklists which the service engineer needs to perform in order to close that particular task, in order to close that particular job. Here again you can define, now this application is for your equipment failure. This is for recording a particular equipment failure and for which these equipment failures can be issued as jobs to service engineers. For demo purposes, this is a particular equipment failure report that we have issued. Now the issue reported is flickering lights. So now this is a major issue, so the weight awarded to this issue is 75%. The issue type as well as remarks. Another issue is your low wattage bulbs installed during service, which is a 25% issue. The issue type is improper maintenance. Status is pending, the source location, the source type, the operating unit where this issue is taking place, the reference number. All of this information can be recorded when you are issuing a breakdown report. Now, as soon as a breakdown report is recorded, then a task is issued to a service engineer over here. Now, PMS activity and schedule monitoring, this is an application where the project manager or the management can visually track the status of each particular preventive maintenance activity or each particular equipment failure. Asset inspection planning is to create an inspection plan and select assets which needs to be inspected and check the compliances that they need to follow. Once an asset inspection plan is raised, then it is issued to a particular inspection planner or an inspector, and that inspector is this application where he can view the plans that he needs to execute. Maintenance contracts and management. This is where maintenance contracts can be defined and create and maintain maintenance contracts signed with vendors for providing maintenance services. On the basis of these maintenance contracts will job orders be issued accordingly. This is a management dashboard where project managers or senior management can view the job order statuses or the PMS activities. Property layout setup, as I said, this is a facility management tool where you can define your particular property and accordingly issue equipment requests or PMS activities based on the layout that you've defined in your property layout setup. Now, as we had a look, the enterprise asset management tool of FusionFOX is a very holistic tool taking care of your preventive maintenance, your breakdown maintenance, or your facility management. Now, as we've had a view at the entire FusionFOX enterprise resource planning solution, we had a look at the customer relationship management, supply chain management, finance and cost management, human capital management, and the enterprise asset management. Along with that, we had a look at also the workflow and actions. We had a view how custom dashboards can be looked at. We had a view at how notifications are sent and escalations are sent according to the workflow defined. My timeline gives you your daily view of the tasks that have been assigned to you, the tasks that are pending. You have a bird's eye view of the actions and the notifications that have come to you. It comes inbuilt with a document management system, but we have an internal enterprise document management system, which has a repository-wise content management, your content security, as well as access management. Now, this was a complete overview of the enterprise resource planning solution from FusionFOX. I hope we were able to give you information and an insight to the capability and scalability of our solution. And I hope this solution as well as this demo can suffice your business needs.